Climate change is altering the familiar weather patterns that we've been used to for many generations. Just this year, Northern Ireland has broken its high maximum temperature record, which has stood for almost half a century. That record fell 3 times in a week. We've witnessed extreme rainfall events which have caused damage to property, damage to our infrastructure, and on 1 or 2 occasions brought a significant risk to life. New extremes are becoming the norm. Extremes of temperature, extremes of rainfall are challenging our communities. We need to be prepared.
Resilience is often defined as the ability of a person, a community or organisation to recover in the face of adversity or challenges. Community resilience is only successful when the public are empowered to use available resources, local resources, to prepare, adapt and recover from adverse situations. People and communities will know best what their own needs are, and therefore people-centred approaches that involve the community at every stage are critical.
The RCRG was established in 2013 to develop a regional consistent approach to community engagement across Northern Ireland. This regional standardised approach means that over 17 organisations work together with over 30 communities right across Northern Ireland on an ongoing basis to provide a forum to facilitate coordination, communication, consistency, capacity building and partnership working, focusing on community resilience affecting Northern Ireland. One of the outcomes of this work is the co-development of household and community emergency plans, which allow communities to manage their own local arrangements.
2008, 2009 and 2012, the street that I live in was affected by the flooding. The gullies were blocked, the street was closed, we had sewage flowing through our houses. And I got in touch with the emergency planning team and we were able to put things in motion. Our community has been left a sandbag bunker, shovels, a trolley to move the sandbags and road closure signs.
So our community resilience group is in Craiga Estate, so we would cover the whole of the estate and we were formed 2013-2014. We are aware now, and our plans in place, so if there's any weather warnings out or if there's heavy rain, people know who to contact.
So we have around 7 community resilience groups in Belfast. Most of the groups were established around 2012-2013 on the back of some pretty severe flash flooding, with new groups continuously coming on board. So what community resilience does for the people of Belfast is actually give them a voice. We have definitely found them useful from a City Council's perspective, because in terms of emergency response or flash flooding or severe weather episodes, we have direct links into those communities. So that allows them to be more prepared and get ready for the severe weather that's coming. They can access their community container and they can forewarn their neighbours, protect their properties and hopefully protect their homes.
We began working in the Eglinton area on community resilience probably about 7 or 8 years ago. There was what's been described as a 300-year flooding event with about 147 houses in the village affected by flooding, some really completely devastated and some with flooding in their garages and some water coming into their homes. It had a huge emotional impact on people. We set up not just the kind of practical support. The council came here and supported people to get emergency relief grants, and once they were applied for, the real emotional impact of everything hit people.
Thinking about the medium to longer term, how can we make sure that we're resilient to things like the impacts of climate change, and we're writing the necessary plans and putting the necessary procedures in place. So we are seeing more severe weather events here locally, we're seeing more storms as well. And that is having an impact obviously on our community. It affects us all. It affects our daily lives. Whether or not our homes are flooded, it affects our businesses and their ability to operate, our supply chains and our infrastructure. How can we as a council support our communities to be much more resilient?
There was a series of meetings called, there was local representation from the statutory organisations. That meeting created an interface, and the local agencies maybe have come to respect that sometimes the local people have that little bit of knowledge that a machine could never develop. There was a determination that day that both sides were going to do something.
This came about as a result of a significant flood in the square and into parts of Princess Street 2 or 3 years ago. As a result of flash flooding, a number of business premises were significantly affected by it. Certainly what the council set in place, and with the cabin that that the various traders and various businesses can have access to has been a great help, knowing, and a great comfort knowing that there is there.
We currently have 4 community resilience groups, one in Banbridge, Portadown, Drumore and one around Lough Neagh. Well, we work with our multi-agency partners DFI and Northern Ireland Water to set up and establish these groups in areas that are at risk of flooding. Well, all the group members will get a text message in the event of severe weather warning, but we also make contact with them on a regular basis throughout the year just to check that contact details are up to date and that there are no issues around the resources that they have. I think community resilience work is very useful because the more that communities can do to help themselves, they can become more resilient, and they're very much more attuned to what needs they have, and that really helps councils and government departments put in place resources to help them help themselves.
2010, I think it was a really bad snow. And I mean, it was unreal. Our motto is help them ravel, help themselves. There was care workers who needed to get in to look after people. There were people who was on oxygen that needed their oxygen tanks and whatnot. And everybody was out there. We got snow shovels from the council. Everybody helped each other. We didn't start to be the big group we are now. We just started friends. It was friends and family. Just grew from there to there, and I have to say, council has been very supportive of us.
Well, I wasn't actually there the actual time that it did flood. Whenever I came home and I just walked into the house, I just couldn't believe the devastation, the mess, the raw sewage. One of the residents' oil tanks had overflown. Takes an awful toll on your health, and the rest of the neighbours too. Not just for myself, but all the residents. It's just distress. And even now, it still rains, and you're going out and you're looking over the wall just to see exactly how high the river is.
Mid and East Antrim Borough Council area has 4 community resilience groups that were set up by the RCRG in 2013 as part of a pilot programme. It's very much a multi-agency approach. The Red Cross were very instrumental in the setting up of these groups. We find that the more support the community resilience groups get, the more prepared they are, the more help they have available to them locally.
About 10 years ago, we noticed that there was an increased public awareness that the weather was changing. And that was coming from communities across Northern Ireland, urban and rural communities. And they were saying to us and our partners in emergency planning, we're experiencing more flooding, and there's more intense rainfall. So with our partners in emergency response, we organised public meetings across Northern Ireland. People told us they also needed to know how to build a sandbag wall, they needed to know some first aid. These are extremely stressful events, and people needed help in managing their emotions and their feelings. There's a terrible fear for the future. People live in fear of the rain. People live in fear that this will happen again, and that therein is the importance of community resilience, because that's in good weather you can plan and you can take steps so that you'll be better prepared for the future and hopefully better able to mitigate some of those impacts.
Climate change is already with us, and even if we stop emitting all of our carbon emissions today, we're still going to see additional extreme weather events. Natural weather events are becoming more intense and frequent, and so we're seeing more storms and floods in winter. We're seeing heat waves and wildfires in summer, and we're seeing the problems with sea level rise happen already, and these are going to get much worse then throughout the century. This has really significant impacts for communities in Northern Ireland, and we're seeing that already. 45,000 homes in Northern Ireland are already at flood risk. We're also seeing some significant problems currently with health and social care. For example, around 99 GP surgeries are at flood risk, 11 hospitals, and also 27 emergency services assets. So these problems already exist in Northern Ireland, and we have to start working now together in order to address them. The good thing is that action has lots and lots of really positive benefits as well for the communities in the way that they're able to come together, for jobs, for the environment as well, and for the places that we live and our health. These things are all going to be improved as we come together to address climate change. We know that we can't protect communities from every risk, and so it's really important that we're able to empower them to do it themselves. So it'd be great to see communities grow and build this together and share the learning from these groups as well. And it's really important that communities can influence government and tell them what they need where they live, and make use of all these many benefits that come from working together.
Since its establishment in 2013, the RCRG has been providing the regional governance arrangements to not only bring together partner organisations, but also to work hand in hand with communities. This approach has not only helped to establish and build mutual trust, but also has empowered communities to be prepared for, to respond to and recover from severe weather impacts. Flexibility when delivering community resilience is key, and a partnership approach between the communities and multi-agency partners is essential for a successful outcome. It is important to note that community resilience is not government departments or the emergency services stepping back from their responsibilities, but rather it is an additional layer of support to those communities at risk. It is about putting plans in place, developing relationships and providing support to communities on the dry days so they can be better prepared to respond to any flooding that may occur on wet days. Good preparedness is not just about developing more plans. It's also how we develop resilient communities and resilient organisations that are well used to working together and that have a mutual trust and confidence in how we work together. Never before has resilience been more important. And as the work of the Regional Community Resilience Group is sustained and developed, the Department and all our multi-agency partners will do our part to ensure collectively we help manage flood risk, severe weather impacts and develop resilient communities, both now and into the future.
In developing a more resilient society, it is important to fully understand the challenges of preparing to mitigate against unknown future crises. The response to COVID-19 demonstrated the willingness and capacity of communities to work together to help each other. We can build on that and strengthen existing community resilience structures using approaches that we know work, as evidenced by the RCRG methodology. To be successful in this, we must continue to work with communities to help them plan and adapt to long-term changes, like the greater frequency of severe weather as an effect of climate change. Co-design and co-production is at the heart of RCRG's methodology, helping communities maintain a greater sense of control and confidence. For this approach to work, it needs coordination from both central and local government, working with communities to identify, coordinate and enhance community capabilities and capacities, understanding risks so as to better understand vulnerabilities and enhance preparedness to act. No single organisation or department can effectively meet the needs of a community in an emergency, so the multi-agency approach to community resilience, as embraced by RCRG, is essential. It is important that we now work to maintain our current groups and encourage the establishment of others, and work to widen the scope and build on a more holistic approach that was so evident in our communities during the pandemic across Northern Ireland.